Hi there, and welcome to Peter and Sylvia talking about mental health in general and mental health in business in particular. What we're dealing with in this video is the disconnect between employers and employees as far as wellness is concerned. There seems to be a gulf between what employees on the one side want and what employees on the other side want or think that they should provide or should be expected to provide, and so on and so forth. So I'm actually going to the launch tomorrow, where at BAFTA in London, where the YouGov latest research into this particular disconnect on well-being is being published. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they come up with and what the various speakers have to say on this topic. So that would be another post, another day, or maybe posts in the plural, but we shall see. But where are we now, Sylvia? Where do you think we stand on this disconnect just right now before any research from anybody is published?
Well, firstly, I hope you got your posh suit for your BAFTA. I mean, wow, that's amazing. So yeah, good luck with that. It's fantastic news. Oh goodness, where do we start? Perhaps we've had what we call I think there's quite a big difference now in 2023 between what employees are expecting in the workplace in terms of wellness, in terms of what the workplace, what it looks like, and now to what employers are starting to want. You know, we've had all the different grades. We had the great attrition where employees, during the pandemic were pushing for more hybrid working, more remote working, more working from home, and the employers thinking, yeah, that's great. However, let's try and make this happen. And we've gone through all these different phases now. And now we're coming to what they call, I think someone's, we've had all these different quiets. We have a great now. It's called the Great Attraction. And there's a quote that I saw, I forget which one of the research papers, something along the lines of company leaders are putting their businesses at risk by not understanding what their employees are running from and what they might gravitate to. So they're looking at this great attraction of how can we actually get people back into the workplace, because rather than working from home and the hybrid working, and how to actually make that happen. But a lot of employees, from a wellness point of view, they're recognising all the benefits of, for example, being at home, spending more time with the family, being able to care for loved ones. A lot of people have changed their priorities recently, that mental health and well-being in general, family is a greater priority than potentially career progression, succession, being the best they can be, and money. So there's that sort of conflict going on as how to get them back into the workplace. Having said that, though, we have the added matter now of the cost of living crisis. So people now might start to be a little bit conflicted that coming back into the workplace, I need to come back to the workplace and get more money. However, I'd actually like to do more working from home. There's quite a move for people to do a 4-day week rather than a 5-day week. So yeah, it's quite a not a conflict as such, but it's quite a dilemma on both sides as to what employees want from the workplace now in this new phase, and what employers are now actually wanting from their employees, because more and more are actually wanting them to come back into the workplace. And there's this little bit, what's going on? So as far as wellness is concerned, you throw that in the mix, it becomes quite a, quite a whirlpool of all these different things to manage and balance that on an individual level and also on a corporate level as well.
Could it be that people now want to go to work instead of feeling that they have to go to work? So that the whole mind shift has happened, mindset has changed from work is something that we must do because we have to put food on the table, to now expecting work to be something that is also enjoyable.
Mm.
Something where, yes, you have to go to work to earn a living, but why not enjoy yourself in the process? Why does it have to be punishment to go to work? And maybe previous generations didn't think that way. Maybe it was just more accepted that you went into work and there was this master-slave relationship, to put it very crudely, where you were the subservient if you were the employee and you just had to do as you were told. Whereas now you want to have a job that is meaningful to you, where your whole body and soul is more invested in it than just you turning up and doing whatever you were told and then you went home again. So I think perhaps the employees have changed their attitude to what going to work means, and maybe employers who have a different set of responsibilities and worries and concerns to the employees, maybe they haven't quite caught on yet to think, actually, if we do make it a more acceptable place to be, I wouldn't say relaxed, because it's not, I don't want labor camp, I don't want holiday camp either, as we have joked before we started this recording. It's called work.
Yeah.
We have to do something. We can't just turn up and be there. We have to do something. So there's a contract in place between employer and employee, and both parties have to live up to that contract. But maybe the content, maybe the whole environment around those employment contracts has now changed. And I don't know if that wasn't already happening. I know we have blamed or praised the pandemic for all sorts of things. And I just think that in terms of well-being and 4-day week or working from home or hybrid, whatever you want to call it, has just been accelerated by the pandemic. It was already on the way.
No, I think so. And I think that's one of the things that the pandemic has done. People have now, I do believe that employers are having more of a voice in terms of what it is they want from their employment, what they want from the employer, and what they want from the workplace, in terms of support and all those things, and re-examining what matters to them. And I think that's where there is potential for this, almost like a transition going on, and each side almost like negotiating sometimes as to what each can offer the other. At the same time, accepting within some businesses or some organisations, or certain pockets where that actually won't work. What employer may want to work from home, and for some reason it's not actually physically possible. But I think there is an element of people have, as I say, reassess what it is they want from life, and that sounds a bit sort of deep and philosophical, but if you're caring for an elderly parent, or you've got a child with a disability, having that flexibility to be able to manage that and get more of a balance or more of a boundary between work and home, I think there is room for that. And I think that's where this sort of dialogue needs to happen as to what employees want and what employees can deliver. At the same time, I also think that employees can't always have what they want, because the different businesses that they work in can't always give them what they want. So there's an element of negotiation and collaboration. An employer at the same time recognizing, to get for example, the best talent, get the most effective staff, sometimes they may have to make those shifts and change their approach to retain that staff, those employees. So they don't go and leave and go to an employer that gives them what they want. So I think it's a real interesting time for the workplace. But one of the things that does seem to be cropping up all the time is the culture of an organisation. What that means, well, a lot of the time, is how we do things around here. Now, even to that, quite often it would be, that's how we do things around here. However, do we need to change how we do things around here, so that to a degree everyone's a winner? There will always be the one, employers, employees that don't always get what they want, but do we need to change how we do things around here to make things better, however we define better in that particular context?
I think you mentioned a couple of times what you want.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where the problem really is. We all go into the workplace with the mindset of this is what I want. And the employer is already there saying this is what I want. So we have two conflicting statements of I want this, I want that. Whereas what we should be looking about is what do we want? Yes, if you turn up and just wanting and demanding, then you will probably never find an employer who's willing to give you all of that.
And as the Rolling Stones said, we can't always get what we want.
No, we can't.
If we can't get what we want, what do we do then? It's not then loggerheads. So how do we make it happen?
And this is where I think dialogue and trust is missing in companies. We don't listen to each other. And if we do listen, it's to respond, not to understand. And there's this fear in a lot of employers that if I say yes to this, oh, that's just the tip of the iceberg, then what's next? What's next?
Yeah, we're going on a slippery slope now.
Yes.
Stop.
Then fear of losing control, basically. But the more choice you have, the more control you actually have. And the more you're trying to fence people in, the more they want to break out. Nobody breaks into prison, do they?
Funny that.
So if we can get to a point where we do what we do because we respect each other, we trust each other, then it becomes a more healthy environment. I know there are things out there like ESG and CSR, which to some extent seem a bit like badges that the company can get to look great at the stock exchange or in the big world for their customers. But it does also have an impact on the people within the organization. But we should be doing this because we want to be a nice place to be, not because we think we can get a bit more money if we got this label or that badge.
I think one of the things I often say, reward doesn't always come in pound notes or dollars or euros. And a reward comes in, can I take that afternoon off to go and care for my elderly parent? All that type of things, and people talk about a good place to work. There's data matrices around this. There's even awards. But what is a good place to work? Because a good place to work, what I think that is, may be different from what you think it is. And it's finding that as much as we can, that middle ground, accepting there will be those, ones on the edges where it doesn't work for them, but trying to find what is a good place to work. Because as we know, there are a lot of people that really enjoy where they work. And for them, it is a good place. And if we could look at that, what's going on there, and transfer it there, but then if we transferred it into that business, would it still be a good place to work? It's a really, we could talk about this for ages.
There's a person I met recently when I spoke to a group of executive assistants and personal assistants at the Strategic PA Network event. And she said, I have never paid for childcare and I've always been in full-time work. She was always able to work from home in the office, taking time off to collect children, to do what she needed to do. She had expectations, she had objectives, and as long as she met those, the director did not care whether she was in the office or at home. And she and her husband, 2 children, full-time work, both of them, never had to pay for childcare. It just happened. They worked around it. That was their lifestyle. That was what they chose. But they had the support of an employer who allowed that to happen. So I met a lot of people who loved the company they worked for. Said to me, Peter, we're streets ahead of you. We're already doing this.
Yeah.
And I know that they exist. It was just so heartwarming to hear that actually it can happen.
And that's great.
And they did not. You see,
Yeah.
they did not have this shiny box full of features and benefits. They just had rock solid policies about how we treat each other, and they were doing it, and they kept it going. And I think this is where we need to go to do that together, and then we can add the other bits and pieces on top. So if you out there watching this, and thank you for that, have views on this disconnect, this wellness, this them and us thing about wellness in business, give us a shout, tell us what you think, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, and what does a good place of work look like? That'd be really interesting to hear what different people's views.
Certainly would. Thank you for watching. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.